Hello and welcome to this special GG Hangout interview series today. My name is Diane Fender and I'm the Vice President for Girls Globe. We are an online magazine and a global network raising awareness about the rights and health of women and girls around the world. This is a special interview series with health professionals and youth advocates who are working to improve the lives of women, children, and adolescents around the world. I'm so excited today because we are joined by Tikhala Itaye, who is the Vice President of AfriYAN Namibia and also co-founder of Her Liberty Namibia. We're going to have a personal dialogue today that'll be fun and interactive, so we want to encourage you to ask questions via the hashtag GG Hangout, and we will take your questions live during this hangout for Tikhala. So Tikhala, I just want you to go ahead and just please tell us about yourself and a little bit more about what you do.
Thanks, Diana, and hi everyone who's tuned in to watch this. Okay, a little bit about me. I am originally born in Malawi and I reside in Namibia. I am the vice president of a youth network called AfriYAN, which stands for African Youth and Adolescent Network, which mainly coordinates youth-led organizations on issues on gender, health, as well as youth development. I'm also the co-founder of an NGO called Her Liberty Namibia, which is basically a youth-led organization led by 3 young ladies, including myself, in terms of mentorship with young girls and just working with young girls and empowerment issues as well, but mainly economic empowerment. In a nutshell, I think that's me. I am a final year law student at the University of Namibia, so I have a heart and a passion for social justice, and I think that explains why I'm in the organization and why I'm a youth activist in the first place. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Tikhala. My first question for you is, what motivates and inspires you to be a young leader in the movement for women's, children's, and adolescent health?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Inspiration. I'm a typical Christian girl. So I'm motivated and moved by Proverbs 31 from the Bible, which talks about pleading the cause of the poor and the needy. And that alone for me has defined who I am, has defined the work that I do. When we think about adolescent health and children's health and women's health, these are a group of a vulnerable population, and for me, a mother is such a caregiver and obviously needs someone to defend them constantly. And children and adolescents, I mean, they're a group of very, very vulnerable people where they are really placed in an environment where they're faced with so many social issues, and definitely being at a place of speaking out for their needs and being there for their well-being, it's so important. So yeah, that's for me, it's been at a place of seeing the need and being there to plead and advocate for those needs. So yeah.
Wow, that's so so inspiring, and it's really encouraging to see you as a young person leading organizations that are on the forefront of change for women's and children's and adolescents' health. So tell us a little bit more about your work with AfriYAN Namibia and Her Liberty Namibia, and how do these organizations empower youth to improve the lives of women and children and adolescents around the world?
Okay.
Sorry, I think you're muted.
Okay, there we go. Perfect. So AfriYAN is, like I was saying earlier on, is mainly a continental network working in different regions in Africa. For the Namibian chapter, there's an executive team of about 10 people. And what we do is we brought together so many youth-led organizations in all regions in Namibia. And we thought, as young people, let's have one voice when it comes to issues that are faced by adolescents and the youth themselves. So with that network, we mobilize young people and we work together on programs that deal with health issues, that deal with gender issues, that deal with youth development per se. So you would say AfriYAN alone is made up of young people, and young people that come together, that work together, that voice the needs for young people together as well. So that it's more impactful than an organization work in isolation. Now, when we're looking at Her Liberty, so Her Liberty is founded by 3 young ladies themselves, and the particular focus with that NGO is young girls and young women. So when we're talking about young women, that's us going into the community themselves and us reaching out in the communities and working with young women, informing them about these issues, helping them and mentoring them to make informed decisions about their sexuality, about their life. I mean, it's been a year where we've been talking about ending child marriage. And for us as Her Liberty, it's so important for us to always inform young women and young girls about particular issues like this. So yeah, so it's that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Wow, great. That's so inspiring, and it's really encouraging to see how young people are being mobilized through both of those networks. And you also are very involved in promoting gender equality in Namibia as well. Can you speak a little bit about that with maybe experiences with Her Liberty?
Sure. Gender equality is something that, I mean, every country has been going on and on about. And with what we've been doing as Her Liberty is just particularly focusing on ensuring that as young women, they're heard and they're involved, especially in decision-making bodies as well. So yeah, so I think on our level, it's just the inclusion of young of women in terms of in decision-making bodies, inclusion when it comes to households as well, because you find that most of them grow up in cultured backgrounds where they always believe that a man is a household. So on a grassroots level, when you work with young women and actually hear about the issues, we're at a place of telling them that, I mean, you don't always have to look up on a man as being the household and the head man. It's also part of you to make decisions and not being vulnerable in that setup. So on our part, it's mainly showing a woman on that she is able to get a job the same way as every man can. You're also part of decision-making bodies as well. So it's mainly at really empowering them and showing them their worth at that level and ensuring that they are included. Yeah.
Wow, thanks so much, Tikhala. That's really such an important message for not only young women but for young men as well. I think in this movement to improve the lives of women and children around the world. So why is it important for young people to be involved in these movements?
Wow. I think for young people, it is so important for us to be involved. I mean, because we're talking about issues that affect young people. I always believe that no one can solve any issues about young people if young people are not included. One thing of all the meetings that we've been going to and being involved in, all the debates we've been involved in, has been about if you're going to come up with youth programs, if you're going to impact the youth, you have to involve them in terms of implementation of programs, planning out what program you're actually going to implement, because at the end of the day, we know what works for us. Whereas if there's someone who's in an older position and is trying to come up with a program, if you really haven't consulted young people or worked with them, there's no way you're going to come up with an effective program for them. So it's so vital that young people are involved. And not only that, when we look at issues of demographic dividends, right, we're talking about young people who are going to be the future leaders of the economy, who are going to drive the economy itself. So it's so important that our government, our country start thinking, let's invest in young people, because in 10 and 20 years from now, they are going to be the social drivers of that economy. They're the ones that are going to contribute to the labor productivity. So they are the key drivers, and it's important they start investing in them and their capacity now. So that's one reason it's so important that young people are constantly involved in issues like this. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. And, I think what makes movement sustainable is really taking ideas from young people, because they are their own ideas. And not only that, but coming around side and supporting those youth-led ideas from the very grassroots level. And but that comes to the question, how do we really support and maintain those initiatives in regards to resources and funding? And that's a significant conversation right now in the MNCAH community. And so what do you think the main challenges are from your perspective in financing these types of programs, and what opportunities do you think exist to fund the work? Do you have any stories from your experience that you can share with us?
Yeah, sure. I think on our part, what we've noticed is data, lack of data to basically support the programs. I'm sure when it comes to policies, they always need evidence to basically defend why you want that program and how are we going to come up with long-term sustainable programs. So evidence always has to speak with the program that you're trying to implement. And with the situation now, we've discovered that there is no data for adolescent health, and we're trying to advocate in terms of let's have programs for adolescent health, but there's that challenge of, but we need data. I think the best part of this realization has us as young people, we came together in Geneva and we're like, we need to do something about the current situation if we're going to impact the adolescent health agenda. And we basically came together, and from there we're developing a scorecard, which is simply a tool that will help respective countries to allocate and get data for young people, where we can get youth-led organizations collecting data for adolescent health issues. So at least we're doing something about the current challenge when it comes to data issues. And another thing has been the lack of accountability when it comes to our government themselves and the budgets that they receive. The accountability mechanisms that are in place are not so enforceable. It's so difficult to actually hold our leaders accountable, because they sit on a budget that they know they need to implement programs, but you find that at the end of the year, millions of money has gone back because it hasn't been utilized. But how do we hold them accountable on issues like that? So for us, I feel like that's been the challenge. You constantly see in the paper how money is not being effectively used, but we're not able to hold them accountable on why it wasn't used. So something like that. Another thing is lack of political will. You find that in most African countries, the issue of health, mostly socioeconomic issues like health, education, is not always so well prioritized. I feel like, recently in Namibia, there was an agenda last year about the government wanting to spend about 700 million on rebuilding the Parliament House. And you're thinking, is that necessary funds to go to? Because, you already have a building, a parliament, but you want to build another one and spend 700 million. So being at a place of lack of political will, they don't really have that political will to invest a lot on health issues, which is supposed to be very, very important and very well prioritized as well. So, yeah, so those are some of the issues we face. A success story, I think on my part, we've had two. I'll start off with the first one. On the Her Liberty point of view, we had started a campaign about a year ago where it was called 2 Minutes to Make a Difference. And it was mainly calling upon getting people to invest in the health of of women, specifically household women. And what we did is we got the country to donate 2-minute noodles. And with the amount that we received over 1,000. We basically went to a low disadvantaged community, and we got the women in households where they're taking care of a lot of children and they're from disadvantaged backgrounds, and basically donate the 2-minute noodles that were given to us. So little things like that that we've done that have been amazing outcome. Another project is I've recently produced a TV drama series called Don't Kiss and Tell. It's related to HIV health issues as well as gender-based violence. And I must say, at the beginning when that project started, that was 2 years ago, I literally was like, how are we going to get support for this? Because I mean, obviously they need data to actually even justify any project. I had no data at all. And yeah, it was amazing how everything came together. But I think being at a place of being a young person and telling them this can work for young people, if we're trying to change behavior patterns when it comes to sexual reproductive health issues, we need social media, we need media farms, we need a place where there's great influence. So it was something innovative, and that's what we're talking about. We need innovative ideas. Sadly, the only people, I mean, sadly and in a good way as well, the only people that sponsored were the American Embassy and the UN. And recently, we also got the National Youth Council of our country to support as well. But there was difficulty in getting national support initially, but international donors were well on it and was very committed. But this past year, when the development of the project and everyone can see, oh, wow, this can actually work out. We've had a lot more national support coming in. We've had partners coming in from the radio stations, from the film commission, from the Ministry of Youth. So I think for my part, that has been a success story. But sadly, I mean, they needed to see the product and the program come out before they invested in it to just get that assurance that this actually can work. But yeah, I would say through that possibility of seeing this coming together and getting support, that has definitely been a success story in knowing that whatever idea you have, it can actually happen, even though it took 2 years. So yeah, that's pretty much it, yeah.
Wow, Tikhala, that's such encouraging stories to hear of how, especially how you're, because I think that's a good question of, okay, well, we need resources. Obviously, the international community can support, but I think it's really sustainable and will be sustainable as national governments also get on board and provide support, not only in funding, but just in the ministries, as you were saying, and all across the board providing that support. So that's really encouraging to hear, both the challenges of, yes, we need accountability, but it seems as there is more evidence, and as they can see youth movements being successful, maybe there will be some more accountability, doors being opened for accountability within your national government as well. So as we're looking forward to a new set of sustainable goals, what do you think are aspects of maternal, newborn, and child and adolescent health which need to be prioritized? Is there something specific that you think should be prioritized in this new agenda?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we were pretty impressed in the fact that it's been highlighted the need of investing in adolescent health. I mean, it's well highlighted when it comes to women and children's health, but adolescent health has been a particular point that we had been pushing forward, and it's visible, especially in the global strategy on women and children and adolescent health. But when it comes to the sustainable development goals, we find that adolescent health has been mentioned, but it needs to be broadened out. The issues that they're facing needs to be broadened out. We can't only focus on sexual reproductive health issues. We need to realize that there are other diseases involved. There's road injury involved. I mean, a lot of young people this past few years have been dying from road accidents, and it's something we undermine, but it's something we still need to, to deal with, as well as drug and alcohol abuse. So it's just a matter of just broadening up the issues as well, that they can be part of programming. Another thing would be is that I think it's goal 6 on the Sustainable Development Goals that we'll be looking at, that talks about promoting healthy lives. They talk about the different elements of how they actually look at that. And one thing for me that never stood out was, I mean, they talk about treatment and they talk about training health workers, which is incredible. But one thing that they actually missed out is the investment of health facilities. It's so sad that in most African countries, the health facilities, the public health facilities, are in terrible conditions. And for me, that worries me. It's either they're not well maintained, the infrastructure is not well. You find that they're also not accessible to everyone, especially those in the rural areas. So I felt like they really should have focused on investing in improvement of health facilities as well, and ensuring that they're accessible for all. And that wasn't highlighted on that goal. So I would have loved that. That's something that they discuss. There's a meeting happening in Ethiopia this week on the Finance for Development meeting, where they'll be discussing mobilization of funds for these issues. So we're hoping that comes up, but yeah, that's that for on my side. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that, and agreed that this is an important week for really, and why, you know, we're hearing from you in this conversation of, you know, what really needs to be prioritized in this community as far as resources and mobilization of resources go. And I think your network and young people are such a key part of that. We have actually a question from those participating online, and the question is, who are some of the most inspirational women in your life? Who are those women that encourage you to do the work that you do?
Oh, wow. I was not expecting that question. It's a very good question. I think on my part, I don't really have any, which is strange. I have been passion driven. I have been God driven with everything that I do, and just in terms of helping communities, helping those that I need. So I don't really have a woman I look up to, but if I had to mention someone, I would say people like Michelle Obama. She is just amazing. She's pretty much in the really inspiring, influential as well. Gracia Michelle, she's someone who's really been working in the health issues when it comes to children and women health issues. So that's someone I also look up to, because that's the work I'm in. But I can't really pinpoint one person that I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to be like her. But for me, it's from the heart and the being passionate on my own that drives me to do the things that I do. So yeah.
Well, it's definitely inspiring hearing from you today, Tikhala. And just to close our time together, I wanted to ask you, how can our readers, what can you share with our readers, the Girls Globe readers, about how they can be involved in empowering young people who are involved in this movement, in the MNCAH movement?
Yeah. It's simple, really. Firstly, just all you have to do is get involved. Be involved in the dialogues that are happening. Contribute. We're constantly putting surveys on social media for people to participate in, and it's as little as you just going to that survey and answering on your perspective on the health agenda. So it's you guys getting involved in the debates that are happening internationally on social media. On a community level, it's a matter of just mobilizing people. I'm sure you can recognize young people in your own respective communities that would be passionate about this, and coming together and having dialogue, and how to, when you come together, you're going to approach your different ministries or your leaders in terms of how do we advocate these on a national level. So it's simply as you getting involved, you mobilizing a lot of people to join the movement, and having dialogue on it, and informing. It's so important to ensure that we inform young people what's going on, because I mean, if you're doing it in isolation, the impact is not so great. So really have the dialogues, inform a lot of young people to join the movement, and yeah, get it on, ensure you make appointments with your leaders and ensure that your voices are being heard as well. Because it's always great having something on the social media or work being done in the communities, but it's also good to ensure that our leaders are involved in what you're doing and are hearing your message and what you're trying to voice out. So yeah, simply get involved and act upon it. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Tikhala. And this has been such an inspiring conversation today. I want to encourage all who are watching to continue to participate in this series by following the hashtag GG Hangout, as we will be talking with more health professionals and youth advocates in the coming months as well. But thank you, Tikhala, so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Diana, and it was such a pleasure to have been with you, and so that you can get an idea on what we're doing and hopefully inspire other young people to join us, really. So it's incredible. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.